Hi, Fausto. Thank you for joining us on Architect Explains. As one of our solution architects, what better person to ask about the benefits of taking a re-architecting approach to complement your application modernization journey? So let's dive right into it. Can you briefly share what re-architecting means and some of the most significant benefits that you have seen with our clients when taking this approach?
Hi, Shanila, and it's a pleasure to be talking with you here. And to answer your question, when you re-architect an application, you keep the logic, try to change, complete all the components of the application. You completely modernize it to align with a modern microservices architecture. In the process, you can follow the next steps. For instance, retiring all technologies and adopting new ones. Rehosting data from on-premise. You can migrate database servers to cloud and replace proprietary plugins and tools with industry standards and open source ones. And also it's important to consider and adopting a DevSecOps mindset, so that security is important to improve all the life cycle of your software since the business requirement until the deployment in production, and to do very quickly in a secure way. And what is the benefit of the architecting is that you take the most of the cost advantages of using microservices and cloud architecture using this approach.
I think as well, like that DevSecOps layer to that is really important, especially nowadays with security top of mind for business leaders. You know, security has to be baked in from end to end throughout the entire life cycle and process. And why not make sure that you're on top of that for 2023? So for my next question, what are some key challenges that clients have to consider when re-architecting their applications?
Let me think. It's a very interesting question. I would say that a key feature or a key challenges is the all third-party libraries, also the internal software composition. You know that software contains inside a lot of frameworks, internal libraries. Some libraries are open source, and other are third-party libraries. And it's very important to have a map of all the components inside the software, all the components relating each other. And if we have a very accurate inventory of open source libraries, we could identify what are the versions and to create a list of risks with what are those software that are out of date, because when you have all libraries, that is a security risk because that makes your application vulnerable. And finally, I will say the technical depth is important to consider. It's a key challenge to identify or to measure the technical depth when you are modernizing an application.
So, next question. During the recent years, many tech leaders opted for that lift and shift approach. And of course, that was to combat the challenges and demands that came from the COVID-19 pandemic. So, although lift and shift may have seemed like the simple, cheaper, and faster way to migrate to the cloud, can you share some of the disadvantages that come from this approach and the disadvantages of trying to sustain it into 2023?
Absolutely. The lift and shift, as you said, is the cheapest way to migrate to cloud. But we have to consider that a monolith application wasn't designed for cloud. So using this strategy, we won't make the most of the cloud. So we'll spend too much in operational expenditures on the cloud. The monolith application will demand a lot of resources, memory, processor, and the auto-scaling won't be precise because when you auto-scale a monolith application, you will be scaling all the functionality, all the features, and not only the features that are needed to auto-scale. And for that reason, you will increase the cost of the cloud, and you won't design solutions that are benefit for the companies.
Well, thank you for sharing that. With that said, perfect segue into my next question. What kind of cloud native features and services can enterprises leverage when they do re-architect their applications?
Some features and services include scalability. Remember that we have two approaches in scalability. One is when you scale up to scale vertically, and the other approach is when you scale horizontally. It's better to scale horizontally because it's cheaper. To scale vertically is more expensive. For that reason, we can leverage techniques or new technologies such as containers, Kubernetes, or Docker images, because you can scale out or scale in a horizontal way. So another feature is the cost optimization, because the cost optimization is linked with the auto scale, because if you auto scale only what you need, you will pay only when you scale the components that really need to be scaled. The other option is the managed services. Here I suggest to use serverless components because all the managed service will be carried by the cloud service provider. And you will focus only in to add value to the business, modeling the business, the process, and the business function in your software. And using these features and taking the most of the cloud, you will design an application to fit into the business and be aligned to the new digital requirements. They demand a lot of requirements according to the digital era and digital transformation of the organization.
And I think as well, innovation is so key right now as we move into the future. Every company, every enterprise is trying to be the first one to develop and deploy the newest, greatest feature for their users. And that's something that you can't necessarily do and be good at if you're just opting for, again, that lift and shift approach. I agree with all of your points, and I thank you again for sharing all of that. So last but not least, what advice would you give to tech leaders planning for their modernization into 2023?
Almost 80% of modernization projects fails.
Mm-hmm.
Because during the discovery phase, the information is not collected in an accurate way. So sometimes when you design the project and you create what are the steps or the roadmap that you need to approach or to follow, you define the roadmap with information that is not complete. For instance, what are the components, what are the libraries? So you need to define and to create very, very accurate information to collect accurate data about the composition of the software. Secondly, you need to match your technology with the business expectation and what are the business requirements. And to manage the dependencies, because the software will have a lot of dependencies and the technical debt. I recommend to use experts, people, modern tools, and methods. And that is what we have in Architect. We have a team of experts in all the areas, architects, developers, designers. Also, we have the tools. So we have a lot of tools to collect accurate information and to define the roadmap of the modernization. So we have the teams, the tools, and the method, so we can assist you in the modernization project.
Yeah, that is perfect. And I could not agree more, Fausto. We check all the boxes. Honestly, we do check a lot of the boxes, and we have the experience to back that all up. So I want to say thank you so much for your time today. It is always a pleasure speaking with you. And for our tech leaders out there, to access more application modernization insights, head over to the link in the comments below to read Fausto's article on the 5 top reasons you need to re-architect applications for the cloud. And if you have any questions, please drop a comment below and you'll be able to connect with one of our team members here.